Hi, welcome to Lachlan Likes a Thing, a show where I take a thing and see whether or not I like it. Now the thing we're looking at in this video is the Shure SE215 dynamic micro driver in-ear earphones. Now the earphone that I'm looking at in this video specifically is the special edition of the SE215, and the special edition differs from the standard edition in that it comes in this blue color instead of the black and clear versions of the standard edition. It has a slightly different design, which apparently has slightly more enhanced bass, and it comes with a 1.2 meter cable instead of the 1.6 meter cable on the standard edition. Now, I actually haven't heard the standard edition in comparison with the special edition, but from all the reports that I've read from people who own both, they apparently sound very, very similar. The SE215 Special Edition apparently sounds just a bit bassier and perhaps with a little more edge in the highs, but I would imagine that most of my comments about the Special Edition would apply to the Standard Edition. Now, the Standard Edition retails for $99, recommended retail price, and the Special Edition just costs a bit more than that. I don't know if it's a limited edition. I got my pair for $130, but availability is a bit spotty in some countries. I think it's still very easily available in Asia. Now, for that price, I have to say, I think that the SE215 is a demonstration that even a big company like Shure can scale down the features from their more expensive earphones like the SE215 and scale them down to a $99 earphone, and you still get detachable cables, you still get very strong noise isolation, this negative profile fit, a really high quality thick cable. And so a lot of the times when I criticize more expensive earphones for having poor build quality, it's because of earphones like the SE215. My one real concern with the SE215's design is that the nozzle of the earphone is relatively thin and it's made out of plastic, which could be a potential weak spot for the design. It would be nice to see more companies moving towards making the entire earphone, or at least the nozzle, out of metal. So as I mentioned before, the SE215 Special Edition comes with a cable that is precisely 116 centimeters in length, and I have to say that's a little bit short. I would have preferred a slightly longer cable, maybe about 1.3, 1.4 meters. That said, the cable itself is very nice in quality. It's quite thick, it's quite durable, and very reassuring, especially since it's also detachable. However, this cable is relatively heavy for an earphone cable, especially with this very, very chunky Y splitter here. And so what you'll find, you won't really notice this when you're just wearing it normally, but if you were to move around a lot with this cable, especially if you were to go running or working out with this earphone, you'll find that this cable will bounce around quite a lot, and the ear guides might flop over your ears. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend the SE215, at least with the stock cable, as a workout or a gym earphone. Now, in terms of comfort, I find the SE215 quite comfortable. You get this negative profile fit, which means that you can lie down with it, and it won't be uncomfortable, at least not as uncomfortable as it's sticking out of your ears. It also means wind noise isn't a huge issue. One thing to note though is that the earpieces are relatively large and they do rest mostly in your outer ear. So if you have smaller ears, you might find it rubbing up against your ears. So that's one thing to watch out for. In terms of noise isolation, the SE215 is very, very strong. It's very, very good, especially for a dynamic driver earphone, because it is pretty much a completely sealed design. It blocks off a lot of external noise, and I would especially recommend it to anyone who was after a dynamic driver earphone with all the kind of tactile bass that you get from that, if you wanted very strong noise isolation. So this is a top pick in that regard. Now, in terms of sound, the SE215 is very much a love it or hate it in-ear earphone. The sound is very rich, very smooth, even a bit sleepy, so the highs are quite rolled off on the SE215, but overall, it's not a completely muffled sounding earphone. There's still quite a lot of richness and detail in the vocals. It's just very much an earphone that's tailored towards people who enjoy a warmer or a darker sound. Now, if you've heard the V-Motor M80, which is a portable headphone that I reviewed earlier on my channel, the SE215 is basically the earphone equivalent of the V-Motor M80 sound. So very rich, very bassy, maybe a little rolled off in the highs, but overall a very technically competent earphone. Now, the soundstage on this earphone is quite intimate. Because of the rolled off highs, you won't get a huge sense of spaciousness with the sound of this earphone. But you know, it's not completely claustrophobic. Again, I still think this is a really good signature, especially if you're going to go do a lot of traveling with this earphone, because you don't have to turn up the volume as high just to block out external noise. The noise isolation is great, and the richness of the sound is still present on low volumes. So if you want to take care of your hearing on the train or on a plane, the SE215 is a really good bet. Now, if you have the SE215 or you're interested in the 215, but you wanted something that was a bit more dynamic, a bit more lively sounding, the Yamaha EPH100 is another earphone that I'm listening to at the moment. I don't have a review up of this on my channel at the moment, but subscribe if you want to see that. The EPH100 sounds quite similar to the SE215. It's just a bit more lively, it's a bit more dynamic, it's got a bit more attack to it, and overall I think this is a bit more precise sounding than the SE215 for a similar sort of price. But with the EPH100, you don't get this negative profile fit, you don't get the detachable cables. So overall, you know, it's a very nice package. Now, if you wanted something a bit more neutral, of course, you'd look at something like the Hi-Fi Man RE400, and you can check out my review of that on my channel, or the VSonic GR07. But this is a bit like a kind of dark chocolate of IEMs. It's very rich, and perhaps not the best for overall all the time critical listening. At the same time, this earphone I think is such a nice complete package that it would make especially a good backup earphone, or especially as an earphone for a gift for anyone. I think most people on the street would be very happy with this earphone, especially with the kind of rich and bassy sound and the really good noise isolation and the detachable cables. So, you know, the holidays are coming up, so if you wanted a nice gift for someone special for $99, I would really recommend the SE215. Or if they really like the color blue, then I would go for the the special edition. Anyway, thanks for watching this review. Click the like button if you found this review helpful, and subscribe to my channel for more reviews. You can talk to me about gear on Facebook at facebook.com/LachlanLikesAthing, or at Twitter at LachLikesAthing. Thanks to everyone who's liked my other videos and subscribed to my channel, and happy listening.